Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at something really ambitious, a project that's trying to build an AI with, well, an Indian soul. It's called Indic GPT, and it could totally reshape the future of artificial intelligence. Now, this quote right here, algorithmic colonization. That's a pretty heavy term, right? But it gets right to the heart of a massive, and I mean massive, problem in AI today. So yeah, let's really get into what that means. So here's the big question. Most of the powerful AI we use today, it was built on English. It thinks in English. So what happens to everyone else? What does that mean for the rest of the world? The source we're looking at calls this the original sin of modern AI. And honestly, that's the whole reason a project like Indic GPT even exists. Okay, so let's dig into that. What actually goes wrong when AI really only gets one culture? Well, in the Indian context, the source points to three huge failures. Look, this goes way beyond just getting a translation wrong. It's like the AI is culturally deaf. It doesn't get the idioms, the history, the social cues. The ethical frameworks are totally different because they're rooted in Western philosophy. And technically, the standard ways of processing language are just clunky and inefficient for Indic languages. The bottom line is, these models might be able to translate words, but they completely fail to understand worlds. And facing a challenge like that, well, it has created this real sense of urgency. It's being called India's Sputnik moment. This idea that building a native AI isn't just a cool tech project, it's a matter of national importance. So what is sovereign AI? It's a nation's ability to build and control its own AI, one that actually reflects its own languages, its own cultures, its own values. This isn't just about trying to build a competitor to Silicon Valley. It's about building an independent digital future. It's about avoiding that algorithmic colonization we talked about at the start. It's about controlling the code that's going to shape your society. All right, so how do you actually do it? How do you build an AI from scratch to have an Indian soul? Well, the creators of Indic GPT came up with this really sophisticated four-layer architecture. And each of these layers you see here, the corpus, the tokenizer, the model structure, the knowledge graph, each one is a pretty big innovation on its own, designed to fix a specific problem with the AIs we have now. Let's break them down one by one. And we've got to start at the very foundation, the data. 15 trillion tokens. I mean, just let that number sink in. To solve the data problem, they built this absolutely massive data set, which they called the digital Ganga of Indian data, a river of knowledge, right? They pulled in everything from ancient manuscripts to modern-day internet forums, and they used a special tool to specifically find the most culturally rich text. The whole point is to make sure the AI isn't just learning words, it's learning the culture behind the words. Okay, now this next part is super interesting, even if it sounds a bit technical. It's about something called a tokenizer, basically how the AI breaks down words to understand them. The standard tools, which are built for Latin scripts like English, just butcher Indic words. They break them into meaningless pieces. But this new Brahmi Net tokenizer, it's designed for these scripts. It understands the meaningful parts of words. And the result is huge, a 28% efficiency gain. That means the AI is faster, cheaper, and just plain smarter when it comes to Indic languages. And it's not just about having more data or a better tokenizer. The model's architecture itself is way smarter. First, they use something called a mixture of experts. You can think of it like having specialized mini-brains inside the AI. One expert network focuses on Indo-Aryan languages, another on Dravidian languages. This stops the model from getting confused and just makes it better. And then, and this is the wild part, they fuse a massive cultural knowledge graph right into the model. So it's not just reading text, it has a built-in map of Indian history, philosophy, and culture. It understands the relationships between things, which is something raw text just can't give you. All right, so we've talked about the tech, but honestly, this next part might be the most revolutionary piece of the whole project. Indic GPT is introducing a completely different philosophy for how to make an AI safe and helpful. And this chart just lays out the difference perfectly. Most Western AI safety is reactive. It's a long list of don't do this, don't say that. The goal is just to prevent harm. But the Dharmic framework they're proposing is proactive. It's not about what the AI shouldn't do. It's about guiding it on what it should do to promote Dharma, duty, ethical conduct, cosmic order. It's about being constructively good, not just avoiding being bad. What this really is an attempt to decolonize AI ethics. It's a huge statement that challenges this idea that there's a single, universal, one-size-fits-all approach to making AI safe. Instead, it offers a blueprint for other cultures to build AI that aligns with their own values. Okay, so that's the theory. But here's the million-dollar question. Does this completely new approach actually work? Is it better? Well, to figure that out, the team realized they first had to build a better test. I mean, it's pretty obvious when you think about it, right? You can't really measure deep cultural understanding by just translating some American test. It just doesn't work. So they built their own benchmark from the ground up, called Doc Cheval. And it's designed specifically to test for that deep, nuanced understanding of the Indian context. And the results they're claiming, they're pretty striking. Take a look at this table. On tasks that need real cultural knowledge, we're talking nuanced translation, cultural Q&A, understanding proverbs, Indic GPT is apparently outperforming the big global models like GPT-4 and Llama 3 by a really significant margin. Let's just zoom in on one of these to see what we're talking about. Proverbial reasoning. I mean, think about it. Explaining a proverb isn't just about translating words. It's about understanding generations of wisdom and culture all baked into one little phrase. And you can see the performance gap here is just massive. This is exactly where a native, culturally grounded model is supposed to shine. So look, the ambition here is way bigger than just topping a leaderboard. The real goal is to create a technology that can actually transform society. The vision is to empower 1 billion people. Think about it. AI tutors that teach kids in their own native tongue. Voice assistants for farmers giving advice in local dialects. Making government services accessible to everyone. The goal is to build an AI that truly understands their world and speaks their language, whether they're in a classroom, on a farm, or in a government office. But, and this is a big but, the project faces some absolutely enormous hurdles. First, the cost is just astronomical. There's also a huge risk that it could just amplify historical biases that are already in the data. And maybe the deepest, trickiest question of all is this. When you try to encode a culture, whose version of that culture do you choose? Who decides what becomes the standard? And that really brings us to the fundamental question that a project like Indic GPT forces us all to ask. Will every culture end up building its own AI? Or are we heading towards a future where one single model, one single worldview defines our shared digital reality? Indic GPT is a bold, fascinating experiment. It's a blueprint for a much more diverse, multipolar AI world. But its success is anything but guaranteed. And it really does pose a fundamental choice about the future of intelligence itself.